After paying $25,000 to be at the event, he left after the first 6 minutes. I've been fortunate enough to build a multi-million-dollar business in only a few short years, and to do that with 0 employees. Now, many people have asked me, how did I do that? And although there were a lot of key concepts that went into that, one of the most important principles was understanding the element of broken bridges. I first learned this concept because I was sitting in a mastermind that we all paid $25,000 to be there. And within the first 6 minutes of the first day, a friend of mine, let's call him John, ended up walking out of the room. I later caught up with him to ask him, hey, what happened there? And he told me that within the first 6 minutes, he got his $1 million idea. And he knew that if he stayed in the room, he'd only be distracted from being able to implement and execute on that idea. And then he taught me this concept called broken bridges. He said, you see, as an entrepreneur, we're here in one place and we're trying to get to the other place, and there's this gap in between. And so what we do is we learn a new concept, something that we think that can take us from point A to point B, and we start building that bridge. Let's call it content marketing. And so we read about content marketing, we attend a conference, and we read books, and we do all these things, and we start building that bridge to get from point A to point B. But before we get there, something comes across our path and we learn about a new concept. Let's call it video strategy. And rather than completing that bridge, what we do is we start to build a new one. We buy courses and attend events and read books about video content, and so we start building that bridge. But again, before we get all the way to the end, we hear about a new concept. Let's call it culture building or team building. And so we start to build that idea, and we start to build another bridge. And again, before we get all the way there, an entire year goes by. And yes, we were super busy. And yes, we felt very productive. But when we look back over the busyness of that year, all we see are a series of broken bridges. So I personally took this to heart. I picked the one thing, I focused, and I implemented. I put on my blinders, I removed all the distractions, and I started to apply what I knew. And by removing all the extra and focusing on the one thing that was important and immediately implementing, I was able to accomplish more in 2 years than most can accomplish in 10, and so can you. So remember John and finish your bridges.
It's freaking cold. Freaking cold out here, man.